Hello?
Hello, Frank. How are you? It's Phil Renzi.
Hi, Phil. I'm trying to see if everything works on my end. Apparently you can hear me. That's good.
Yeah, your video's not on, but that's okay.
I know, I know.
Doesn't need to be if you don't want it to be. So
No, there it is. Here I
There you are.
am.
there you go. There we go. Fix your tie, right? Do your hair.
Yeah, well, at this point, doesn't matter. It's too cold for some reason. I don't know why I'm cold.
Mm.
So, hi, Dan.
Who am I looking at? Well, Frank, hi, how are you?
Hi, good. And you?
Yeah, good. You got a heater down there?
I do have a heater down here, but
Put it
I
on.
work from home 3 days a week and plus, and my wife works upstairs, so, but it's down here, it's cold. In the summertime, it's not too bad, but it gets cold.
Well, it's good to have in the summertime.
Yeah. I
Hi,
know.
Phil.
Hey, how you doing?
Not bad, thanks.
So what is this is just a check-in?
I guess
Yeah.
so. I think I think at one point we talked about checking in halfway through the year, I think just to get progress reports. That's all I can think of
That's good.
but I don't know, maybe I missed something else, but I think Joe Conway is going to be on.
Okay,
And I think he'll go through sort of like what we approved last year, and I think maybe let us know where things are at as far as he knows. So
okay.
David had called this meeting, so maybe when he joins, if there was something else he could
Yeah.
let us know.
Off the top of your head, do you remember what was proposed and what we finally agreed upon? Was it like 3.8 and it was 2.1 we approved?
Yeah, we got down to 2. Yeah,
What was the original proposal, though?
it was
It
something
was
like
up-
3.8.
Yeah, it was up around 3.8 or 4.
Yeah,
3.84?
No, 3.8 or 4. I think 3.8 is what Phil
Yeah,
is
that's
saying,
that,
and I
yeah.
think he's right.
Yeah, well. We'll
This
see.
may be-
I think the DPW, that some of the stuff we approved, they already have received, right?
well, that's I think the purpose of tonight, Frank, is to find out. Yeah, it was 3.8 was the full list we started at last year. Just looking at that.
I wonder what's gonna come in for the next year.
Mm.
So when do we start meeting? In February, late January?
We usually start meeting in mid to late February.
Yeah, that's right. Hello, Jeff.
How's it going, guys?
There he is. Hi, Jeff.
Hello.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Some difficulties here. Oh, there we go.
Oh, that's good. Where's the People's Bank sign?
Oh, it's now M&T.
Oh,
Yeah, we got acquired. So
Yes, I did notice an M&T Bank up on Route 1.
what
Yeah.
is M&T?
merchants and traders, I think it is. It's based out of they're based out of Buffalo, New York.
Uh-huh.
I think
So
combined with
people-
the 11th largest bank in the country.
Wow.
So now it's big.
People's was from Connecticut?
Bridgeport. Yep.
Yeah, Bridgeport, yeah.
Yeah.
But Rockland Trust bought East Boston Savings last year. That was a big one for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, as a stockholder.
Big fish, little fish.
Oh, you're a stockholder, Frank?
Yeah,
Good move.
yeah, it's all right. I wish I had more, but
Yeah.
they pay a dividend. I like dividends. Nobody likes dividends apparently in the wild corners of Wall Street. Hello, David.
Good evening.
Hello, Tracy.
David, Tracy's there too.
Hi, yep, I'm here.
Okay.
So I think we just need Joe Conway.
Yeah, and Frank Leone.
Frank's not gonna be, I, depending how quickly this goes, I'm gonna doubt we're gonna see Frank tonight. So
Okay.
he asked me to play the role of host. So,
Okay.
I think you said he'd be late.
Yeah,
yeah,
he said it'd be late, yeah.
but he did talk to Conway. So, Joe is supposed to be on here. And then I was just sort of gonna hand it over to Joe. Is the main purpose of this to just update us on our approvals from last year, right? Kind of go through the list.
Yeah, that's the
think so.
email I sent out. So, yeah.
So I think Joe is gonna be ready to do that.
Is
Without
there
Joe,
any-
we
is there
won't
a-
have many updates.
Yeah. So is there any concern about anything that we approved?
No, I mean, we had mentioned it actually before, and it's pretty, I mean, for the capital projects that we do at the state, we have quarterly and even sometimes monthly readouts. So
Yeah.
it just kind of helps it. It also helps us stay oriented when we make decisions for next year.
Yeah, well, I think it's a good idea to meet halfway.
Does someone have Joe's number? I don't think I do.
Joe's number. I thought we were meeting at town hall. I'm glad Frank called me earlier to see if
I would have been, I would have done the same thing,
I was gonna be,
Bill. I would have been at the front door.
added my calendar, we're meeting in person, so.
Joe. No, I don't have it in here.
I assume he's not at the town council meeting tonight.
Is that going on too?
Yeah. I'm just gonna make sure he has the link. I'm just gonna email him the Zoom link. I'm assuming he has it. Conway. Cap. Planning.
By statute, how many members are we supposed to have?
7. 7 is a full slate. I think you made the full slate, Frank, when you ran.
Oh, so Frank is the only member missing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so last year was my first, earlier this year was my first meeting.
Oh, yeah, Joe just had to restart Zoom, wouldn't open. I'll be in 2 minutes. That was 2 minutes ago. Okay. Joe is on the way.
So Joe is gonna have some kind of progress report or,
We'll see.
I think he's gonna go through our approval list from last year. Just reminding everyone that we're being recorded and this will be a public meeting. So just, we've been recorded this whole time, but just reminding everyone that.
no, I understand.
Oh, Where's the best place to get pumpkins still? We need to get pumpkins. I wait because the squirrels eat them all.
Colorasso,
Colorados, yeah, I got some there
Colorasso,
today,
yep.
They still have like a million.
tons.
There's the Congregational Church over in Saugus, right around the, right across from the Rotary there. I'm assuming they got a second delivery just last weekend, so
Mm.
they usually have a couple of hundred pumpkins easily.
I saw some lady, she carved a pumpkin with her Ryobi, like she had like the Sawzall, and then she basically, and she used like a food mixer to clean it out. Like she had this thing cleaned out and carved in like 4 minutes. I was in heaven. My kids are gonna hate me. They love the mess. We're gonna have the quickest operation in history in the Renzi household this year. I'll ruin every kitchen appliance doing it, but that's okay.
Be worth it.
Yeah, Ryobis are cheap anyways. Come on, Joe. Where are you?
Cuba's communist leader, Fidel Castro, Peter Angelos, and a contingent of American school children who'd come with him, and a 55,000.
The BBC.
I muted him. I don't know what was going to come on, Dan. I was saving you. I don't know what was going to be playing. I muted you. I don't know how to unmute you. You're going to have to do it yourself. You can't hear him. Shit. Hold on. Dan, you got to unmute yourself.
How's that?
There we go. Sorry, I
Okay.
muted you. I don't know what was gonna come out of that.
I shut it off. I shut it
Okay.
off. Just a program I was listening to. I didn't get the end of it.
Oh man.
Does anybody recall the bond issue that may be coming along for road repair and what the status of that is? Have we talked about a potential for that in the next year or so? Do
I
you
know
recall that?
Town meeting had approved $10 million for road repairs like 2 years ago or a year
That's
and a
it.
half ago.
That's it. Are we in the middle of it?
No idea. I don't know what's
There you
spent
go.
out of that.
Take a look at the front, my front yard. You can
Yeah.
see some of it.
I think there was also discussion about ARPA funds, some of that being used towards infrastructure repair too.
Uh-huh. Okay.
But I don't know what decision they have to make. Last time I saw that, they all had all the town councils were asked to sort of put in their like top 3 things that they think they should spend those funds on. I think they still have to decide where they're going to spend those millions.
Okay.
But I don't know how that comes out in terms of what we'll see.
Yeah,
Roads
I'm
would be
seeing
nice.
Hmm?
Roads would be nice.
I'm seeing a lot of road repair in the Pleasant Street. I'm on Wave Avenue and that area, White Ave.
We got a brand new road too.
Where are you?
I'm on Brewster.
Okay,
right up-
yeah, so,
up
yeah,
Wilson.
right there, yeah. Same area. That might be part of that 10 million.
It's a big project.
Yeah, really. I mean, and they're doing a very good job, I think,
Mhm.
from the looks of it.
Mhm.
Actually, Jeff, I think they're gonna do all the streets around you too, like BB Lane and Forester.
Yep, yeah,
Forester.
those are all done. We have, this whole section is done now. They're doing streets off of Pleasant.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Have they
Forester.
Oh, excuse me.
Go ahead.
Have they begun the work on Town Hall? That we approved?
I haven't noticed.
Once our
wait.
esteemed guest joins us, we'll have answers to all these
Mhm.
questions.
Yeah. Actually, the town hall stuff is the exterior, right? We're talking about the
Right.
outer
When we did
walls.
when we did the walking tour.
Yeah. I haven't been back there to see.
Hmm.
Okay,
Hey,
Here he is.
all right.
Joe's on. We have to stop talking about him. Oh, wait.
Sorry about that. That was every time I kept clicking the link to log in, I kept getting like a Windows command prompt to restart my computer.
Oh, you
Oh.
gotta love Windows.
Yeah. And then did anybody else have to put in a pin to get into this?
No,
No, you get, yeah. Are you in your office, Joe, or at home?
No, I'm at home on my work laptop.
Oh.
Well,
Okay.
thank you for joining us, Joe. I think the purpose of tonight would be just to try to get a mid-year update on where we are with some of the capital list from last year. So I
Absolutely.
think that was sort of the intent, and give us an idea of things we're at. And then I think, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone, but take that, and if there's any other discussion we need to know leading up, kind of go from there. But I think we've been talking about this for a couple of years now, having sort of like a mid-year thing. So do you have anything you want to run? You want me to just pull up the list from last year, or what?
So I actually went through it this afternoon. I update it as it goes anyway, but I went through it this afternoon. I'll share it and I'll just kind of walk through it line by line. I know it's probably going to be a little dry, but we'll cover all of it and go over some of the things that have been done and then the tentative schedules for some of the other stuff too.
yeah. But I mean, the formality, excuse me, do you have to have a call to order? Do we have?
Yeah, Frank, we should call the order. I guess I'll call the order since I'm host. So I'll
Right.
call the meeting to order, and just gonna take attendance. I basically see everyone but Frank Nardone. Is that correct? I see Tracy and I think you're supposed to call your own names.
Okay.
But
Dan Calori.
I see you all. So there
Frank
you are.
Conti,
Tracy
Yeah.
Cleversley.
Jeff Genta.
Dave Wooden.
And Phil Renzi. Okay, so we have quorum. Joe, I made you co-host, so you're good to share as you wish.
Thank you, sir. All right, so this doesn't have to be too formal, so we could stop as we go. If I don't hear anything, I'll probably just keep going, but can everybody see the list from last year up on the screen?
yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the top right here, line 11, this is all of our prior year leases and things like that. Obviously, these payments are complete. They usually go out sometime around July or August, depending on the due date for the bills. In fleet, everything has been ordered to date. A couple of our stuff, things for Public Works. I know on the loader, we have a delivery date in November. I don't have a delivery date on the pickup truck, and some of the other things below are also to be determined. The police department, they had one cruiser delivered that I believe is just getting released from the upfitter that puts in the lights and sirens and all their radio communication stuff. The prisoner van, they were also successful getting that. That is also at the upfitter. And then they have one cruiser with a delivery date to be determined. one of the things you'll probably hear going into this year, pretty much similar to everything going on. The availability and ETA on vehicle orders has been all over the place. Some of them have been really quick, and then others, it's literally almost radio silence. So that'll be something interesting to pay attention to kind of as we're getting into things for fiscal 2024, excuse me. Just running through the building. So these acronyms on the side, so TH is town hall. So the siding replacement, this is something we're going to do in the spring, and we couldn't get it in this fall and line it up with the contractor that we have. If you remember, that was the back and the sides of the building. The rugs in the bathroom floor is scheduled to be done over the winter, usually just before Christmas break. It gets a little quiet. That's a good time to be disruptive. The ceilings will also be done at the same time. Currently, right now at Town Hall, the masonry and the railings is ongoing. We're also doing window replacements and trim replacements. The smoke detectors as well are all going at the same time. So you have all three of those projects basically happening simultaneously, and they should be in before Veterans Day. The flagpole, that's something we'll probably do either in the winter or early spring. We can kind of do it off season when before the grass starts growing for the spring. So we'll probably do that. And then the infrared electrical panel scan was actually completed this fall. If you remember, that was town-wide. It covered a variety of different buildings. So PSB fire, this is 1 Union Street. Some windows that we put in, those will be happening in the spring. Right now they are moving, Phil, I'm sure you're well versed on this, but they're in the process of moving the dispatch downstairs. So some of the things we need to do, we had to wait so they could finish their thing first. The same thing with the VAV work. Once they get the 911 and everything downstairs and all the hiccups out of that, then we can go in and get our stuff done. But they literally are just moving furniture over the last probably 7 days. So that'll be something you probably see happen sometime around in November, I would think. Let's see, 5 Common Street. If you've driven through Town Hall at all in probably the last month, a heck of a lot is happening there. So we're doing the basement windows. If you remember when we went on our field trip and we went down, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. If you remember, we went on the little field trip of things. We went down into the basement of this building and we talked about, I think we called it the dog house, but it was eventually the entryway into that. That was been rebuilt and complete. The building also has a brand new roof on it. So almost everything related to 5 Common Street has been completed. The only thing we have left to do is some of the plumbing that we budgeted for via capital. And we'll be doing that now as we start to move inside. A couple of different things with moving some people around and changing some offices with the Board of Health, bringing some of the people online. Once that sorted itself out, now we have the time to be able to get in there and complete that building for the year. We also looked at on the Town Hall campus, 11 Lafayette. If you remember, that was basically the IT building located in the rear of the parking lot. And we put some money in to replace the railings and whatnot there. If you go by there today, they actually have completed that project and everything is up to snuff and structurally sound. Moving on, 9 Albion Street, the fire alarm. They're presently doing work on that now, and that should be completed by the end of the month. That's a brand new fire alarm for that building. We approved some work at the Ewell School, the illuminated exit signs. Typically, what you'll find is, unless it's something that has to be done absolutely immediately, we try to do most of our work in the schools when they're not around. So winter break, whenever they have a little bit of a relaxed schedule in there, my group, our electrician, Michael, will get in there and start doing some of that work. So I'd expect that to be done in December. Same thing with the high school. Some of the ceiling replacement has been done, but the bulk majority of it will be getting into probably between the Veterans Day, Thanksgiving split, and then finishing up whatever we have left over right around Christmas break. And not to sound like a broken drum, but that'll be the same thing with the water heater. So we ordered the water heater, then DPW staff will put that in. That's here, ready to go. So again, once we can basically turn the water off in the building for a couple hours and get this done, that'll be completed as well. We spent some time talking about the greenwood. We referenced some gutters, for lack of a better term, but they're basically window wells. And they have grates on them that were starting to rot away. That's been completed. The roof ladder that we mentioned on the Walton School has been ordered. As soon as that comes in, that will get installed. We're just waiting for that to physically show up. At the senior center, we had some rugs and flooring we were going to replace. That is actually currently scheduled for some abatement work in there now. We had some hot tiles with asbestos underlayment that we had to get out of the way. I believe that's happening the end of the week. And then as soon as that's cleaned up and we're good to go, we'll start replacing the things on the floor, and including the rug in that main administrative area that we talked about. The Civic Center, we talked about replacing the shingled roof. And if you remember, Mr. Mayo mentioned at the time that he had the opportunity to get some state money via grant to fund most of that project. I'm just waiting to get something in writing saying that the grant has been delivered and the funds are in place. As soon as that happens, we're basically ready to go to do the project. If it extends a little bit too long into the month of November, we'll probably have to kick that until the spring, just so we're not taking the roof off the building. You never know what's going to happen, but I'm cautiously optimistic that I'll get that paperwork ASAP and we can get going on that. So also at the Civic Center, we talked about the mezzanines inside. Some of the things related to it is they weren't load rated for occupancy and things like that. Over the summer, we had to bounce a couple of things back and forth with the structural engineer to be able to rate the plates and things we're going to use to secure the mezzanine into the walls. All the hardware that we need is currently being fabricated. And as soon as we get that in hand, that'll go in and be installed. So that'll be something that probably by the time we get full into the process of next year and we update this again, that'll be completed just around the first of the year, I would imagine. Also at the Civic Center, we talked about bathroom renovations downstairs. This is something that we're going to be doing over the winter again. We have to coordinate it with the Boys and Girls Club, obviously, and some of the rentals that Recreation has in there. We didn't want to go in there and blow up the summer, especially when, that was, their busiest season. So kind of like the schools, if we can get in there and be as minimally disruptive as we can, the winter is the time to do it. So that'll be something in the next couple of weeks we'll be starting to plan and be doing over December and January. All right, the Galvin School, the door handles, Tim informed me that these will be scheduled to get done over winter break. Landrigan's Field House, if anybody's been up there. So the garage door that faces the field has been complete. We're just waiting. There's, I believe, 3 doors on the left-hand side of the building that are ordered. And as soon as they come in, those will get installed. The Dolbear School, the committee approved some badge readers. The schools are telling me that's going to be something that's done over the winter break there. And then for the Greenwood School, we talked about split units and coming up with a plan to how to cool that building. We will put that out to likely RFP so that I have a number of what it's going to cost to get a plan set put together and a construction estimate that we can either discuss as we move into the conversations of next year, or depending on what the budgetary estimates are, would likely end up becoming a warrant article for the spring. So stay tuned on that one.
Joe, wasn't that a feasibility? Rather
Yeah.
than plans, more than, but like, wasn't that more of a feasibility of whether or not we could even do plans?
So yeah, so Phil, what it is we're basically going to write it up as a feasibility of, can we cool this? What's the best way to cool this? And what I'd like to know is what's the best way we can install all these, fixtures and appurtenances without having to touch the brand new roof. And based on that, I'd ask them, what would it cost for design and then what would it cost for a construction estimate. So if, if we do get a number that we like, we're basically ready to go. Trying to bring somebody on to design it for us, so we have PS&E for our construction projects. But yeah, it is going to be more of a feasibility study than anything, because I don't know if mini splits will be the answer, or they'll say, something a little bit more like conventional cooling, with maybe some modified ductwork might have to be done just because of the square footage and different things like that.
Do you think with, do you think that feasibility study will be ready to discuss with us when we come back for next year's?
Absolutely. So that's the goal. So the feasibility piece to it will be out hopefully by the second week in November, with a required submittal back to the town probably just after the first of the year. That way we have all the budgetary estimates that might be included in that. So when we talk about that, we'll have a real number that we haven't been sitting on for like 8 months. So the goal is for all that to come in as we're talking through this, and it'll be as up to the minute as we can get it. At the Woodville, the committee approved to refinish the floor, which is basically strip it down to nothing and reinstall it. Tim told me this, the contractor here was just basically straight out all summer long. This is actually scheduled for April vacation to get done. And then the new carpet at the BB Library currently is ongoing. So before I jump to anything else, does anybody want to go over anything else in the building section, or you want to keep moving?
When you have it listed as spring 2022, what do you mean? Was it completed in 2022? The wind, like?
No, I really mean that's 2023 in haste. I was kept writing the same year, but
Oh,
that'll
okay.
be all of anything.
You'll update that, right?
Yeah, anything here that says spring will be the upcoming spring, which is basically the second half of this budgetary construction season.
How are you finding construction cost escalations on all these smaller projects? Are you like all these ongoings? Are you feeling you're going to come in at budget on these?
So far, we've come in at budget on everything. It's no secret that obviously, labor is definitely something that's been interesting. More so on the heavy civil side, things like granite and cast iron, and believe it or not, even like ductile iron for water main. They've all had runs where, it's super available, then it's not available for a while. If you're buying anything in bulk, sometimes it's been difficult. Cross my fingers though, with everything we have on this list, we seem to be just in that scope and size where it's pretty feasible. The vehicles, I think to this point, have probably been the most challenging. But that could be, we'll see what the next couple months mean too. I mean, I feel like anything is possible at this point, especially this year.
Do you need, actually, that's a good point on the vehicles. Do you need to ask the finance committee if that capital will roll over to the next fiscal year?
So when you order one of these vehicles, typically purchase, I know I myself, Public Works does it. And I know the police department, as soon as the town meeting warrant cannot be challenged, we execute purchase orders for the vehicles. Generally, we take delivery some sort of the fiscal. I know I've had in my experience a couple of them that have run over a little bit. And the council and the finance committee will hang on to that until we get delivery. So typically hasn't been too much of an issue. Usually, the long end, you're looking a little bit closer to a year, but I've never seen anything go over a year. I hope that that's not the case this time around.
The only reason I'm asking on that is I could imagine on those items, particularly them rolling into the new fiscal year because of demand, right? And we would just want to see when we come to the fiscal 24, we would want to see if anything was still pending, either order or delivery.
Yeah,
So
I
that,
could,
so that way, you know, the police, we wouldn't be dinging the police if they wanted another 3 cruisers, right? They would be actually be asking for 4, but one of them would be from the previous year.
yeah, then as that moves on, I'll keep that up to date, especially given that I know, just looking at it quick, like the loader is supposed to be a November delivery to us. That was about 7.5 months, they said. The school department sidewalk machine is actually supposed to show up within the next 2 weeks. I've been told that I'll see the 2022 pickup with the plow sometime around the first of the year. So as that gets more current, I get more information. I'll make sure that all that's updated, but this list could look totally different in about 2 weeks' time.
Great.
Any issues come out of the panel scan?
You know, I haven't seen all of it yet. I've seen a few of them roll in. I don't think so. I'd have to talk to Michael, our electrician, though. He's reading it first. I kind of get the Reader's Digest from him after the fact. What I plan on doing is once all of it's in, he's digested it, I'll put together kind of like a little summary for you, just to hand it over to you and say, by doing this, you know, we found, you know, this, that, or the other thing. I don't think there's been anything major. I wouldn't rule out a couple of hot spots and, you know, maybe occasional short or something like that that he has to chase and find. But as soon as we get rolling into the you know, the official start of the new year, I mean, we'll go through an exercise just like this again. But when I do that, I'll make sure that I break that out a little bit more specific for you. Okay, so what is typically our F&P, which is field and park. We did some ball diamond work, Moulton, Sullivan, and Nacella Field. These are something that will get done in the spring. We were going to do it in the fall, and then if anybody's been through Moulton, the town, specifically recreation, was able to get some grant money in for a fit court. They were entertaining some other things via grants to put in down there. So we thought it didn't make sense if we were going to be excavating to put in a concrete pad for a fit court. We didn't want to have the baseball field finished and find out that their only path to deliver what they had was right over the brand new field that we did. So that'll all be springtime work. And then we did, as this committee has done basically every year, the one playground, the Walton School, has been ordered. And that's another one. As soon as that shows up, best case scenario, it gets installed April vacation. Depending if that's feasible, that'll happen. If that's not feasible, we'll basically let the call be up to the school. You know, typically there's a hesitancy, especially with the Woodville school. They didn't necessarily want to demo the playground when the kids were still there. So that could end up turning into a June project, but we won't know until that comes in, and then we really have to see what the weather in April is kind of dictating at that time. Miscellaneous, this is kind of like your catch-all. The police department talked about the mutual aid radios that they needed. As I mentioned earlier, they're moving dispatch. So as soon as dispatch is moved, then they are going to begin the process of installing this. The chief said that's secondary to kind of what they have going on at this point. Let's see, the committee approved application development for some of our GIS stuff. That's ongoing. If anybody pays attention to the council, I was actually in with them about 2 weeks ago and gave them an update on some of that. We started to roll some of this live into our website where people can look up, you know, property data, utility data, and some other things like that. They basically transformed a lot of what we had on paper and buried in boxes into something that's, you know, searchable and available to people via the website. We were fortunate enough to get an aggregate screener this year. If I'm being honest, this machine has logged lots of hours this year. We've made probably 4,000 or 5,000 tons of gravel, and I bet you we have almost 1,000 yards of screen loom that we pulled out on Hot Street that we normally would have been paying to dispose of. So this machine has been very, very busy this year. IT, we did a small section this year, mostly for the library. I was talking to Todd the other day about this. He mentioned that everything has been ordered and that this should all be installed as he's getting it in. And the enterprises, we have a couple of prior year leases in sewer and water. Again, much like the tax levy, that's just a payment that we log through this. We ordered a Bobcat for some sewer things. I'm actually expecting that within the next week to 10 days. Our Farm Street pumping station, if you're familiar with that, that's the building at the corner of Farm and Water Street. That's basically where everything that goes down the drain heads to and then gets pumped up towards Deer Island. From there, we had a failure with one of our heaters there. With that type of building, with the components in it and the piping in it, it can't freeze. So this is something that we ordered some replacement parts for our heating system. It's starting to trickle in now. When it gets in, our staff will be installing it. Every year in the utilities, we also do a line item for system improvements. And sewer related, this is something in our inflow and investigation that we do annually. We might find different areas in town where when we're video inspecting it, that the joints in the pipes are slipped, or there's some sort of scenario we actually have to physically get down into it and excavate to fix it. System improvements pays for things like that. It might pay for something like a piece of hardware in one of our pumping stations. The long and short of it is it basically pays for assets or required excavated repairs. Inflow and infiltration reduction. Over the last couple of years, I've personally spoken a bunch of times that Wakefield is fortunate in one way and disfortunate in another way, because any of the grant loan opportunities through the MWRA, we've been able to take advantage of. Those are something where you get $1 million loan essentially from them at a 25% payback. So you get $1 million worth of work for $250,000. We were at the final phase, which was a straight $1 million loan at the time that we put this plan together, and it got voted at town meeting. What we did was we figured out on our end at Public Works what we had going on the next year, and we're able to appropriate money out of the reserves in the sewer to continue that and avoid taking a loan for the year. The reason why we did that is the executive board at the MWRA was voting on whether or not to continue the program. And some of the rumors were that if they did continue the program, it wouldn't be a complete 100% loan. They would actually go back to some of the differentiated grant funding. Luckily, that did happen. So this time around next year, we're going to be able to take advantage of that 25% payback again. Unfortunately, when we were doing this, we didn't have enough to know at that time. So, we made the best decision we could to keep the program going and crossed our fingers for the best information out of the authority that we could get. And last but not least, in sewer, the Spalding Street force main. This is something right down by the not Colonel Conley, excuse me, the Spalding Street playground. There's a little pumping station there. Basically takes the 6 or 8 homes there and pushes what goes down the drain up towards Church Street. A hotbed of activity all summer long. We definitely don't want to be trenching through that. So as soon as we know that the last events on the common are done, we'll go in there and do that excavation just before it snows out.
I have a question. You said with regard to the MWRA, Wakefield was fortunate. You explained that. What is the misfortune that Wakefield faces?
Oh, so there is none now. What the misfortune was, by the time they had, if they had 12 phases of the program, we were at phase 12. So we've taken advantage of every single opportunity we had.
Mm-hmm.
The only one left to us at the time was, a full $1 million loan paid back at 0 interest over 10 years. Luckily for us, they've continued the program with the split. So we'll be able to continue now, probably in fiscal 25 at the $250,000 repayment for $1 million worth of work. So, we're fortunate that that's available. We're unfortunate that we were right at the end of it. We've used all of it, and, we almost had to make a decision on a different course, but luckily they've continued that program. I think a lot of communities, not just Wakefield, have been able to do a lot of work, having that available. So, and last but not least, in water, so we had a couple of prior year payments. We needed to order a new pump for a Linden Street pumping station. The lead time, so I guess, Phil, here's one with the lead times. We're definitely all over the place. This is kind of special and proprietary to what we have. So the lead time on this was about 6.5 months. This should be showing up any time now. As soon as it comes in, all the nuts and bolts are there to basically drop it in and get it going. We just need it to come to the door. In our treatment plant, we're updating some of the storage tanks and pumps, getting rid of some of the old stuff that's in there, and making sure that it's new and operating to the most efficient capacity it can. System improvements in water, much like sewer. This is for, assets. Typically what this is hydrants. Sometimes, we find it on some of our larger water mains in town. We discover that a gate's broken. This would pay for that. Different things like that, depending on what pops up during the year. And then lastly, water mains, we appropriated $500,000 for that. We've started to get pretty aggressive on making sure that water is part of the picture in all of our underground work. We've gone through and identified a whole bunch of places and different things that we want to do. And what this appropriation is essentially a 1.5 streets of a water main replacement job. It hasn't started yet. It'll probably happen sometime in the spring, and it's going to be Cedar Street at this point. So I feel like I flew through that, but go over anything else or leave it up to the committee to talk it through, but that's kind of the state of where we're at the current time.
Thanks, Joe.
Can you
Does anyone
share
have any-
this with us via email afterward?
Yep, I can.
After you update the spring 2023?
Yes, I'll do that now, and as soon as we sign off, I'll shoot that out to the committee.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone have any questions for Joe?
This is really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome.
When are you going to start seeing requests come in for our next cycle?
So that's a good question. So that's one of the things I talked to Frank this morning, and I asked him, and he didn't know, so I said I'd bring it up with you guys. We can basically start whenever you want. I would say that it typically I send out a letter to everybody right around Thanksgiving saying, hey, before the Christmas holiday, get me everything that you have. That way I can put it together, and by the first of the year, the latest, this group is starting to see kind of the first pass through things. That's worked, especially in the last couple of years. It seems like this group has been a pretty well-oiled machine, but if you think you want to start having the conversation earlier, I guess it would be up to the group. If not, we can kind of go as is.
Joe, are there things coming along that you're already aware of that maybe nobody has really talked about, but just general project stuff that's looming?
I don't think so. So like any surprises, I guess?
Right.
No, I don't know. Not off the top of my head. I think if anything, you might see a couple of repeats. I think at this point in time, if there was anything that was going to be a surprise or, something that's just way too big of an ask to balance out of this, you can't have a $1 million request out of a $2 million annual article, right?
Right.
Then at that point, it would probably be more likely that it would turn into a warrant article and a conversation on a bigger level.
Yep.
that's certainly something, so why don't I do this? I can send out my messaging earlier that if any group knows that they have anything big ticket coming in, even if we don't have all the background, give me a short summary of what it is. That way we can kind of do some due diligence on that if the group has to beforehand. I know we started a couple of roofs last year that may or may not be back. I'm not 100% sure that they didn't come from my group.
Yeah, I do agree, like sometime, maybe the beginning of November, sending out the reminder to folks and then another reminder probably mid-November with some sort of deadline for submission, maybe in January or so, that we could then review.
So let me ask, does the target date to start right after the new year, is that appropriate? Do we want that to be accelerated a little bit? What do we feel with the timing there?
Do you think we know enough by then?
Some things maybe, some things probably not. I think the closer, unfortunately, I think the closer you are,
Right,
towards decision day, I think the more dialed in the numbers
sure,
can be.
clear.
So when
ahead.
is, and that's, I'm sorry, my time frame is on the state calendar. So if it doesn't need to be that aggressive, I don't see any purpose to being, if we don't have a decision date that's due until March or April, I was going on the assumption that we needed to make a decision in early calendar 24, but or 23, sorry. But if that's not the case, I just think our messaging should be transparent and pretty repetitive so that we can get, I know previous years, it seemed like some folks were surprised that they needed to either meet with us or put together some sort of written proposal.
Is there anything the committee wants to see different? Certainly when I message that out, I obviously will encourage a written proposal and as much information as possible to kind of back up any request. Is there anything specifically that the group might want to see that's a little bit different, or do we think that might cover us?
I think the library always does a good job backing up their quotes. They're asked with quotes out of all the different departments. I don't know how easy it is when you have, umpteen number of vehicles. I don't know if you're expecting a heavy or a slow year again next year, because our vehicle list this past year wasn't as bad as other years. So I don't know if you're catching up on that. I don't know. I think we kind of see. I think this group's pretty good about picking some good questions for people when we see stuff. It's tough to think of things off that I can think of. The big stuff I can think of is park stuff, like the fields. So there's all these articles lately about these fields and the maintenance on them.
Yep.
The Galvin field's nearing 10 years old now.
Yeah, so there's going to be some interesting conversations about that. So the town is going to pick up, obviously, with if the high school project moves forward and gets constructed, the Beasley Oval obviously will be moved, and that'll be redone. The question that the town will have to decide at the time is, what do we think about doing Landrigan at the same time, so they're both the same vintage? I'll be honest, once the ARPA discussion at the council level kind of sorts itself out, and we have an idea of the guidance that they're going to give, the different departments on what they want to spend the money on, I would say at minimum, probably not here, but I don't have any problem sharing it. I'm going to ask to at least get one field redone, probably either Landrigan or I think it's Mullen Field at the Galvin. Some of the UV is really starting to beat that up. So I want to make sure that, if we're half a year too early, I'd rather be too early than be too late. But those are definitely something in the next couple of years you're going to see pop up that, they're getting close to the end of their expected life. And, we need to make a decision on that.
Yeah, and I think, Matt, like the playgrounds, we sort of have been mapping those out like individually. Like we're gonna have to do that, but the conversation starts really with town hall when we're
Right.
given a budget to make sure that, if we know we have a big field coming up, maybe that's argument to get a little bit more than 2.1 million off the bat, assuming that we might have a big ticket like that. So it kind of goes hand in hand, I think, with what we have to approve for, and then what's actually on the plate, to know that as early, because I don't know when Steve and the town council or finance committee comes up with our number, when that date is, but like getting them as much of this information is just as important as us seeing it early, just so they can get an idea what we're going to have on our plate.
I'll provide a little bit of a better update on that. The only other thing, yeah, so basically what I could get you for the next time we talk, just so we can think big picture, even if we, if it doesn't end up landing here, that's fine, but we can discuss it. Install date, when it actually went live, and then, generally 12 years is your life expectancy out of that. That could swing up or down depending on different things. But I can definitely brush that up. And I agree, Phil, a couple of pieces need to fall into place. I do know though that your strong advocacy last year for increased funding, or at least starting to think about that, I think resonated. So I will,
We'll see if our asks resonated as a group. We can all ask again, right? Right, everyone? We'll keep on asking. I think that's our mission. Yeah, I think it's just critical we don't get stuck waiting too long for these fields, and then we do have, if the high school gets approved, right, and that takes away the Beasley, we don't want that the year that we're taking out the Mullen or the Walton at the Gal. Like there's certain duplicities here where we're gonna need we may need as many fields as possible. So like getting ahead of that timeline in the next 10 years, I think is critical to plan it out for just logistical reasons too. So
yeah.
Is there any, go ahead, Joe.
I was gonna say the other thing that needs to be considered. It's certainly above my stature in the world, but I wonder if you entertain a Landrigan type project and try to pick up an economy of scale because you're doing the project down at Beasley. So I wonder if you get Beasley situated first, you open that, you can double play Landrigan during construction, and then once Beasley goes live again, then flip and go up the hill. We'll have to see how that goes with the PBC and all the votes and everything before that can come up. But it's certainly something that it should at least get a discussion.
Is there any consideration to go into natural turf on any of the fields? On the Mullen, I guess, you're saying that's coming up on 10 years. Because I mean, that would blunt these cost requests to some extent.
It certainly would. I think the reasoning why that's probably less likely, with the fake, or I should say the artificial, you can play on it all year long. The tough part about natural turf, the Beasley Oval was notorious for it.
Yes, maintenance.
Yeah, and you really didn't have a good time of year, where you could keep people off of it to really get the grass to grow.
Yeah.
Between spring sports and then, you have a small period over the summertime for a couple of weeks, but it's scorching hot, and then, Pop Warner and football and marching band are ready to get back in there right after. So I feel like it was always a juggling act, with that, where, the turf field does have a cost associated with it, about every decade.
Yeah, there's some health considerations now too that are coming out. So
absolutely.
Oh. Okay.
I'll just start saving all the rubber pellets in my front entry and dropping them off back at the Mullen.
Anytime, just put them in a bag. I'll come by and pick them up.
My kid empties her cleat in my front entryway every night. I'll put it in a bucket. Any other questions?
Well, my
Oh,
question
sorry,
about
Tracy, go.
the turf really quick is, did I miss this, or do we fill that ourselves, or do you hire someone to do that?
So every year, we do essentially a replenishment. So everything that gets picked up and brought to Phil's house, we have the ability to put back in. We don't have the machinery. Like if we had to do a whole scale replacement and do the whole field, we probably have to have somebody come in and help us with that. But every year, Dennis and the folks in parks will go back to every field and essentially kind of level up. I guess give it a leveling course is a poor way of describing it, but they add rubber to it every year to make sure that
Yeah, they fill it in.
100%. Yeah.
I wasn't sure if we did that or
No, we I believe so when Rick was in my position, it came as a capital plan committee ask one year, and then it was put into the operating budget the following year. So it's just yearly maintenance.
thanks.
Anything else?
Did for me.
Okay, so for next steps, I guess just Joe will send out the updated list. And then I guess it's sort of, we wait until the new year and talk about, we usually start like early, one year we started really early February, mid-February, usually starting somewhere around there, so. I
You know
don't
what I'll do? I'll send this out tonight, and then if we don't come together before, say before Christmas, I'll update it again and send it back out, and just I'll notate anything between what we talked about tonight and that point was additionally finished, or if I have any other information on any timeline changes or things like that, I'll make sure I include it, because it'll obviously probably be part of the conversation going forward. And then maybe once the first of the year comes up and I start getting information in, we can get rolling.
Okay, anything else, anyone?
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, 1 minute, the Patriots are on, look at that, for any Patriots fans, so if there's any left. And a second. All in favor, as Joe Bertrand would say, press leave.
Have a good
See
night,
everyone.
everybody.
Thank
See
you.
you
Good
later.
night.
Bye-bye,
See you around
thanks.
town.
Yep.
Thanks, Joe.
Good
You're
night.
Appreciate
welcome.
it. Okay,
Good night.
good night.